Okay, hi everybody. We just wanted to welcome you back to another week of the MSP Business School podcast we've been doing over the last, I guess this is our 12th week.
Wow.
Today, like always, we've got myself, Tim McNeil. I'm here with my business partner, Rob Rogers, and we also have Brian Doyle from VCIO.
How's everybody doing today?
So today, what we'd like to focus on is how to keep your clients engaged during the slow times of, we'll pick on COVID because we're still in the COVID times, but how do you keep your clients engaged with new projects that tend to fall by the wayside when things get slow? I think Brian probably has as good of a perspective as anybody when it comes to this, especially with the VCIO platform. I mean, why don't you kick things off and just tell us what you're seeing?
Yeah. So, really what we're talking about today is that concept of what do we say to our customers when there's no project imminent, and how do we stay connected with them when we're really, struggling to figure out what there is to say. I've talked to, salespeople, account managers, VCIOs, and they'll always say, what do I talk to my customer about when there's a time where I don't have any projects? Do I just call them and say hi? How do I get into a conversation, especially if it's somebody a little bit junior at their role, right?
Yeah.
But there's, but what's really huge in any relationship, I don't care if it's business or personal, is you got to continually go through the process of relationship building and not take people for granted, right? I'm sure you've been told that by your wives, but it really comes down to
story of my life, Brian.
Yeah, no doubt, right? And really, we just got to, it comes down to how do we engage with our clients and make sure that we're bringing something of value to them in those experiences. And it isn't just that phone call where we're like, hey, man, I haven't talked in 3 months. What's going on? Not much. Fantastic. I'll call you again in 3 months, right? And nothing really transpires. So obviously, over here at VCIO Toolbox, we focus on strategic account management and managing that client relationship. First and foremost, the QBR is just really a tool in that arsenal to execute on staying close to our customers. So what you got to look at is how there's a few things you can use and bring to that conversation. One, you can look around you and say what's going on, externally to all of us, within the country, within the globe, right? So obviously as we're starting to come out of the pandemic here, there's always a conversation that can be had on, geez, how'd it go? How are you guys doing? Are you feeling any impact? What's the prognosis for the future? For you guys, hey, we'll share with you a little bit about, what we did, but you can use those external factors as something to engage them in, to kind of get the conversation started. You can also use things like events and technology, new stuff that came out, since that's germane to what we're doing. So, if Microsoft made some new announcement, even something as, really as innocuous as the name change from Office 365 to Microsoft 365, that's something you can take to the table. But you got to go a step beyond that too, right? There's your icebreakers. This is how you can get into it, getting a little momentum with your customer. We really look at strategic account management over at VCIO Toolbox as a 3-step process. Each year, we're looking at our customer to understand what their strategic plan is for that year. And then we do that through a process called Business Insights that really is a 2-pronged approach. We're trying to understand the corporate direction, and then we're trying to understand more about the people that we're interfacing with, those key stakeholders, those decision makers, those influencers. So we really understand how they're reacting to our products. And then as account managers, we can build our relationship plan based on those outcomes, right? Hey, Tim, you might not be a fan of VCIO Toolbox. Well, I'm not going to suppose that I could take you all the way to being a big fan in a year, but maybe I can move the needle where I get you out of not liking us to neutral. And now when you come to our meetings, maybe you're only, kicking 2 of our 5 projects to the side, right? So, we really want to reach deep, and these are moments to really start building those relationships that we're identifying during that early end process. So, we look at strategy building and that engagement on the front end once a year. This year, it's twice a year, given everything we've gone through, but usually once a year. Then we move into our business reviews themselves, which are really just meant to be strategic touch points and an opportunity to stay engaged along the way, right? So while we're building out our roadmap, while we're doing other things with the customers, these meetings are really to understand, are there any key developments that have occurred over there since the last time I've seen those customers? Changing key staff, change in their product mix, change in their, do they have a huge customer loss that we haven't heard about yet, but could impact their ability to utilize our service at its fullest long term. So we're able to use these meetings to understand a little bit more about them. Obviously, we can directly correlate it how that's going to impact us, but more importantly, it starts telling us how we can improve the relationship and potentially use technology as an accelerator to help them meet those goals and challenges, right? So those QBRs that a lot of people look at as cost centers, right? Oh man, I got to get my technicians to do this time and all that. Get to a standardized format. Don't care if you use VCIO Toolbox, just get out there and do QBRs. And the way you need to do it is having a standardized process that minimizes the work so you can stay on cadence, because it's critical you're out there touching your customer. Then between meetings, you got to have a way to measure risk as well. And this can be a little more subtle. We have a CSAT tool built into our system, but it's not meant to replace the tools like Customer Thermometer or Simple Sat or those other tools that are out there that do a real good job on the transactional side of life. We're real, the negative with the transactional side of life is the CEO and the lowest person on the totem pole have the exact same relationship with us as far as their responses in those tickets, right? So it doesn't matter. We want to have a way to gauge the relationship with those key stakeholders, decision makers, and influencers I go back to again. So now you can use those CSATs a couple times a year, especially if you're only meeting on an annual or biannual basis with the business review, to use that as a gauge on the relationship in between and to stay connected to that customer. So they're at least seeing an email that's coming in their box that might not be tied to a ticket or something else. So that's kind of, how we lay out the process. But then when we want to get into the actual doing of this is where, an account manager, maybe they're acting as a VCIO, maybe they're not, but they have to look at their own approach to account management and say, look, every one of my customers, right? Let's call it what it is. MSP customers are the gift that keeps on giving, right? Once you get into that relationship, you should be able to nurture that relationship and make money for years to come. And, because of the nature of the relationship and the amount of trust and loyalty that can get built into it, you've got to run over their cat 9 times before they're usually going to leave you. That's why customer acquisition is a challenge for many MSPs. So how can you differentiate yourself from the pack, both within your client and then as you're looking for new customers? So let's kind of focus for a minute on that client that doesn't have an impending project. This is where I see, most account managers, DCIOs. From here on out, we'll just call them account managers to make it easy for this discussion. Yep. Where do these guys fall down? Well, it's that I don't really have anything to say to these guys, so I'm not going to reach out to them right now. And that's a huge mistake, because the best time to talk to your customer is when you don't have anything to talk to them about. There's no pressing need. One, it shows that you value them and respect them in general, right? Because if you're always the sales rep that just calls when there's something to be bought, all they're going to see is a $sign right on your forehead, right? That's what you live with. The other thing is, if we're only calling in times of crisis, you're never going to get to a meaningful conversation about the future. There's just too much iron in the fire at that stage. So you've got to look at an account manager and almost set a schedule for yourself at the beginning of the year. And I go so far as saying, put it into your CRM with task dates, put it in there and say to yourself, hey, on this date, I'm going to have at least a monthly touch with my customer. It could be alternating phone call and email, and what I'm going to try to achieve in each one of those calls. Call one could be simply, hey, I want to, realign myself with their strategy. See if anything's changed. If you're not working through a process like ours, understand what the key challenges that they're going to see as obstacles to their success, and just get those noted and say, great, we're going to keep that in mind as we develop, continue to develop solutions for you, so we can make sure that we're aligning with you to get you the right technologies and not just feeding you, the hot tech of the day, if you will, right?
Well, that's my problem. So a lot of the reps that I'm talking to and that I work with, they're okay at the tactic side. So yep. we view everything on the QBRs, we view everything as a past, a present, and a future model. What happened in the past that we have to talk about, what's happening right now that we have to talk about, and what's going to happen in the future that we have to yep. talk about. Past and present is tactical. Future is strategy. And I just cannot, that's where we struggle all the time. What are the questions that we can ask to even engage our partners to understand and even start talking about strategy, because that's like big brain stuff. And I know that my reps, they get intimidated by saying, hey, Mr. CEO of your big, huge company, talk to me about your strategy. And that's where I start to lose my reps. So what do I do? What are the questions that we ask to get into that strategy piece? Because everything funnels up to that. And you can talk about projects once you get to there.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, that's part of the maturation process for a rep too, right? Getting comfortable when they're selling the veto and being able to really engage in those conversations. But let's start in the simplest sense, right? You need to understand enough about them to even be able to propose solutions. Otherwise, you're just proposing technology for technology's sake,
Right.
and bundling everybody into one big bucket, right? Everybody needs email, so everybody gets Office 365. And why there might be truth to that, everybody knows those other tools in Office 365 can be leveraged 18 different ways depending on how your company operates. So a junior person, and well, it's not even a junior person. A lot of times it'll all come that way from the technical leadership too, because they're just not salespeople or relationship people by nature, right? They come more from an engineering bent. So when you're going out to talk to a client, and the way I usually engage it, especially if I'm sitting with like a CEO, let's play through the CEO first visit. I don't know them at all. Right? Well, one, do your homework going in just so you've got some understanding about their business. So if the first question is, hey, what do you know about us? Be sincere in that statement and say, look, I know what I'm able to read. Obviously, I don't know, know necessarily at the deepest levels, but I did see over the course of the last year, you guys have achieved X, Y, and Z out in the marketplace. I did see that you acquired this company. So it seems like you guys are going through some moving and shaking out there. And it seems like, and if it's a public company, hey, the stock price is rising, right? Or whatever, so get a couple, 2 or 3 key facts for your back pocket. So you can, if they ask you that question, because really that's their question to say, how much am I going to share with this guy? Is he really looking to move the needle with me, or is he just kind of asking me that question? Then move into it, and you don't have to always step straight to strategy. Strategy is a word that gets thrown around a lot and can mean different things to certain people. But
so what does it mean to you?
Well, to me, strategy means what are the things that you're going to need to do to achieve whatever success looks like for your business. Simple, easy breezy. What are those things you're chasing after? What are those obstacles that are blocking you to get to whatever your dream state of your business is and achieve success? When you look at it that simple, everything else that cascades off of it's a tactic, but you got to know what you're driving for at the top level. What I see often is sometimes reps are told these initiatives and they kind of throw them away because they can't correlate it back to technology, right? So when you think at the real high end here, when I'm talking to a customer about strategy, first thing, I don't go into it that way. I just say, hey, one of the things that would help me understand where you're trying to go is, I'd like to understand what a picture of success looks like for you. What, if you looked at this company in 12 months and said, what does success look like? You don't have to answer me what that looks like, but tell me the key initiatives that you're taking and what the blockers might be in getting you there, even if they're not technology related. I'm just interested in hearing what you're trying to achieve so I can make sure that we're, rowing in the same direction with
okay
you, right?
So hold on, Brian. So what you're saying is when you're trying to discuss strategy with your clients, you throw the question out, what does success look like for you? But then you pull back a little bit and say, hey, I'm not asking you for your specific numbers, but kind of tell me, like, what are you trying to aim to and what are going to be the roadblocks that get you there and how can I align myself?
Yeah, and you'll be surprised. You'll get numbers from some people, right? You'll get concrete, but some people are guarded, right? And they're not ready to go there. So by putting it out there as
being proactive,
hey, what are you trying to achieve? What does success look like for your company? Obviously, we're a part of your team by extension to getting there. And then what are some of the key initiatives and blockers that you're facing? And that really gets them usually talking, but you haven't asked them like for this big pot of gold. You're really just telling them to tell more about it. Then what you got to get adept at, and this really only comes with time, is peeling back the onion when you start getting those responses. So, Tim, let's say you said to me right now, hey, let's role play this one through. You just told me that you're going to go, and your goal for your company this year is to grow. So my follow-up to you would be, well, that's great, Tim. growth comes in many fashions, right? Are you looking to grow the revenue? Are you looking to grow profitability? Are you looking to grow geographically? Are you just looking to improve headcount and get some underutilized positions filled? Kind of give me an idea what the landscape of grow means to you, because that's a common one. Guys will just throw, we're looking to grow, but that doesn't tell me anything. And each one of those has a different lever for the solution that we can put together, right? You tell me that you're trying to grow revenue. Well, then I'm going to be looking at tactics that can help you automate and sell quicker, right? Those would be things I'd maybe be looking for from a technology standpoint, or enable your people to be more efficient so they can spend more time on the phones and less time doing data entry. If you're telling me you're trying to grow profitability, I'm going to look at the cost centers that we control, maybe your telecom bills, maybe your other Azure bills, and see if there's anywhere where we can potentially parse back some costs to contribute to that improving profitability column. If you tell me that you're looking to expand geographically, I got to start thinking about how we can centralize technologies better, make things more apt for remote work, and try to put the least amount of cost in every one of those locations while providing service. And then if you close out with that final piece that I said to you, which is I'm trying to expand people, well, now you got to get a whole process going there to make sure that those people come on board, have the equipment they require, have the rights and permissions they need, that they're being reviewed properly, and it might even be some time to work with the HR department on acceptable use policy and written information security policy upgrades. So notice what I'm really doing here is saying this one initiative that you just gave me has a lot of potential
It could go
things
15
to it.
different directions.
And more importantly, even if you don't see the relationship, and this takes time. I mean, this is a huge part of our ramp camp trainings usually. It's almost a week or two that we work on this. How do you build these strategies and goals when you're going to portray them back to the client in a way that you can cascade a lot of different opportunities underneath it? And that makes that business alignment. So now play through to the sale time, right? When you do finally get to that point in the calendar where the sale needs to be made, there's a number one reason that when a budget's been identified but a sale is stalling, it's because of the fact that the customer doesn't feel confident. They don't feel confident in executing on that money because they're still not sure if it's going to push the needle for their business. So you've got to be, so you've got to be able to show them as you're going through this process, how it's impacting their business, front and center. Pre-proposal, you need to be able to show them how it impacts their business. Because of this is not happening, right? Because you don't have a good remote workforce, you can't expand your geography appropriately to hire those people in the best that are all over the country to support you. Let's use that, right? Then the second part is once you propose that, you've got to tie it back to those strategic initiatives so you can drive a business case, right? Customer wants to know why I need to do this. And this is especially important if you are if you are good at building roadmaps for your client. By year 2, everybody's forgotten why they put that initiative together, right? So we need to make sure at that point that we have shown the customer the path. We've told them the what is the problem through the impact, and the why through the resolution state. And again, we do this over time by just having these key conversations with clients where we're continually being like a private eye, digging in, getting little bits of information that we can then assemble in a way that we can really show them that we understand their strategy, understand what they're trying to achieve, and this is why they need to buy. That's that.
It's pretty legit, man. That's pretty good. If only there was a product or like a software that could like help me bring all of this together, that could tie it all together for me.
Listeners know where I come from, and you can always come see me.
That was good stuff, man. That was legit. I'm usually on the tactic side, and I'm really good at the past and the present with my reps. But the strategy is somewhere that it's hard to get the reps to understand, one, and two, have the confidence to talk big boy, in big business discussions with people. But you broke it down in a way where they're just asking a simple objection handling question, right? Tell me about your plans in the next, and then making them drill down based on their global answer and drilling everything down. That was good stuff, man.
Well, when we always say what makes a great sales rep in MSP world, right? And the real reality, everybody gives the answer. It's consultative selling. Well, that's what we're doing here, right? We're really trying to reach up, understand more about the company, and sell them on the solutions that are really going to fit the problems, but not the simple solutions. My firewall is old and I need a new one. Look, inside
which
sales.
Which is where a lot of the reps are.
Well, and that's where majority, exactly.
Yeah. And the thing is,
95% of them.
If you can master this, it's a secret weapon, man. Like, you want to talk about building credibility, have this conversation, because the other guy that you're competing with isn't having that conversation. Even if the guy is reluctant to share, he's going to come out of the room and go, they're asking me a different question track than everybody else, right?
That's
So, you know, you still got to build trust with somebody before they're going to open up the kimono. But you can do that along the way through the sales process just by showing them how you're different than somebody else. And the way to do that.
Well, and if they're a current client, to what you said earlier, you're making sure you're going in there with all your homework done.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
All your past and your present information on lockdown. So it's coming off the cuff instead of, you know, looking at a piece of paper to, you know, try and do it. So, yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. You know, the old adage, if you want, you know, you give what you get, right? Or you get what you give, right?
That's
if
right.
You really
100%.
can go out there and understand about your customer, stay in tune with what's going on. You know, look, there's simple tactics. I'm sure you guys teach us all the time, but if you see your customer in the news and it's positive, shoot them a note with nothing else that says, hey,
something.
Guys, saw the article in the news. You looked great. It's good to hear good things are happening. Stay well, right?
Yeah.
Boom, you're out. But it's a touch point. And guess what? Most people aren't doing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Google Alerts allows you to stay in touch with this information. So set up Google Alerts on all your customers, because that way you're going to get the news when it gets up there and you don't have to go scour for it.
Yeah.
Wow. I've been having my reps scour for it in like the business journals. So I have them all subscribed to the business journals in their area so they can look at the, you know, the top 10 list for this and the top 10 list for that. But I didn't even think about the Google Alert side.
Yeah, Google Alerts are great unless your name's Brian Doyle. There's so many of me that it's hard to get noticed. But, but all kidding aside, when you do it around company names and key executives, you can get a lot of this information just come to you in an automated fashion without even asking for it. And then you can very quickly just reach out to your customer and say, hey, man, congrats, or hey, man, good news, or hey, man, that's awesome. You know, talk soon. That's it. I mean, really ask for nothing. That's the real key, right? You want to build a relationship. Ask for nothing sometimes. It's
right.
I would say ask for nothing most of the time.
Yeah.
Honestly, and then seriously, ask for nothing most of the time. But
I think we're heading to the end of our time today, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We're just we're starting to get to that point. So I guess I just wanted to wrap things up real quick. Any last minute thoughts, just from either one of you on how to get clients kind of over that hill when it comes to the proactive projects in the future?
You know, I do real quick. You know, so the past and present is more of a tactical issue, and reps kind of understand that. It's easy for a rep to grasp that and talk to clients about that. But the strategy piece that Brian was talking about today is, you know, top 1%, and that's great. So I would encourage everybody to listen to this a few times, write the stuff down that Brian was saying about strategy and how to ask the question and dive deeper into it right there. Because I know I am, and I'm giving this to my reps 100%.
And I'll close with, you know, sometimes you'll get the pushback that there's no need to meet because the client just doesn't feel like there's anything else to talk about. And, you know, the easiest thing to do is bribe. You know, take them out to lunch. A $40 investment on lunchtime will pay dividends in the future. I've done half of my deals because I just take people to lunch, stay engaged with them, get to know about them as a person as much as a business. Yeah. So don't forget to, as sales reps, invest in yourself, reach in your pocket if it's not being paid for by your company, and just find social ways to get together with your clients.
100% agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Brian, you're like putting on a clinic here today. Dude, like the gyms are coming out left and right here,
well,
man.
You know, here's the problem. I just did it all I know. Now the rest of the episode.
Yeah, no, that's it.
All right, you just got my narrow focus.
We got to stop. That's it for this week.
All right, guys.
Okay.
See you again next week.
Yes, thanks for your time. Have a good week.
All right, take care.